Hi, and welcome to the Vince Unlimited YouTube channel. My name is Vince, and I'm an ideas man. Well, to be fair, it's not my only skill set, but you knew that already from my channel title, Vince Unlimited, and from seeing many of my other videos that I've posted. If you're new here to me and my channel, why not subscribe and hunt out some of my other content, just to verify my claim. But I do sometimes think of myself as an ideas man. Yes, other times I'm a biker, and maybe sometimes a humorist. But for now, for the purposes of this video, I'll stick to labelling myself as an ideas man. That is, someone who is often coming up with new, unique, innovative ideas or ways of doing things. Let me give you a simple example or two to show you what I mean by setting out a never before seen idea or concept in just a few words. In fact, as an example, I can tell you an original thought I had using only 3 words. Chocolate coated crisps. Have you ever seen these before? Too complex a description perhaps? Then what about summing up a novel idea using just 2 words? Black wine. Or I could use 3 words, but add a bit of humour. Square chocolate eggs. Cluck, cluck, brrr. But before we get fully into it, let me address the elephant in the room. Originality. Yes, originality. Get out of this room. I'm trying to film a video here. Sorry about that. My elephant is always trying to interrupt when I'm discussing ideas. She remembers why I called her originality, you see. I was going to go with Nelly, but you know me. Anyway, speaking of originality, you may possibly be under the impression that you have previously heard one or more of my ideas, but I'm going to include in this video. If so, my only excuse is I was not personally aware of anyone having come up with these particular ideas when I first had them. Admittedly, it's very rare that genuinely new concepts or things are actually conceived. Most ideas are usually based on some previously known thing. Let's face it, sliced bread only came about after someone else had thought of bread, and another had fashioned a knife. So if you have previously heard of any of these ideas here, just drop me a comment below. Anyway, enough procrastination, let's get on with some of my ideas. And I'll start with a couple which I first published way back in October 2003. Sweet tea. At the time, I used to love tea, but then again, I was supposed to. I am British after all. Admittedly, the way I took it, black, weak and with 1 sugar, was a little unconventional. It was an inviting, red, watery, sweet liquid where you can clearly see the base of the mug. I was a terribly happy bunny. The taste was so subtle, not disrupted by the artificial thickness of bovine mammaloidal fluid. I learned to appreciate the subtleness of tea as a drink after a Japanese restaurant supplied me with green tea, an oriental fusion of hot water with bits of their garden chucked in it. Strange to the eye, but welcome in the mouth. The Japanese had been drinking it like this for hundreds of years before they told me. How inconsiderate is that? Tea's ancient heritage can be easily traced because in essence has hardly changed since the first Chinese person boiled a pan of water in autumn. That is why the British love it. We're superb at tradition, even if it has to be appropriated from far and wide. So much so, developments in tea making have been few and far between. For a start, there was the tea bag, a major revolution from loose tea, and then, well, almost nothing. Except a minor restyle of tea bags of various shapes and sizes offering dubious claims to increase efficiency. I didn't even want my flavour to flood out, I took it red. So when I came across this idea, I thought I could claim a landmark, another true revolution in tea making. A quantum step, no less. Would they name it after me? Like all good ideas, it was simple and came from need. I tried to make a cup of tea at work, but there was no sugar. Someone had used the last of it, and all that remained were a few grains amongst the coffee granules. Little interim note, if you have coffee with sugar, put the sugar in first so the spoon doesn't contaminate the sugar. That single tiny coffee granule can really spoil weak tea. And I was teetotal. I never drink coffee. Anyway, back to the case in point. I wanted a cup of tea and there was no sugar. I looked forlornly at the familiar looking tea bag. If only the sugar was already in it, I thought. One of those little light bulb thingies illuminated over my head, and there it was. Tea bags containing tea and sugar. A genuinely new idea which provided a fresh marketing edge. I even had the logo, Sweet Tea's the one for me. And by the way, the version of tea that I drink now is without the actual tea. Just hot water with sugar. And no, I'm not about to propose the sugar bag. I'm not a knob. Microsoft Word Minutes template. Whilst at work at the time, I was using Microsoft Word 97 as a word processor. I know, I'm an ancient dinosaur. It was a typical top-class big software application developed using multi-thousands of dollars and many man-hours, so clearly hard to fault. So when I came across a need for an elementary feature in this powerful popular application, I was surprised by its omission. Amongst many, all the other standard templates, such as pre-formatted letters, school reports and CVs, it didn't have a minutes template. How did this occur? Surely when they were beta testing the product they would have had meetings and presumably minuted them. Did I discover a secret here? Did they use Lotus Ami Pro in Seattle? We should have been told. My idea, naturally, create a pre-formed minutes template and sell it to Bill Gates at his rate. That was the really ingenious bit. And if you think that this template idea has now been addressed nearly 20 years on, check out your current word processor. For instance, the current 2022 Pages app on my iPad has 99 varied templates, but still this omission. The big issue idea. By early 2005, I had published another couple of ideas, the first about the big issue. For those that don't know, the Big Issue magazine scheme was launched in London in 1991 to help rough sleepers move from street begging to selling a service, and now costs £3 per copy, with 50% of that price going directly to the vendor. Their website is bigissue.com, and you can even subscribe to their online version. Now, by some standards, I'm not an overtly charitable person. I don't set fire to Oxfam shops or kick Labradors or anything like that. But if a charitable group deluges my postbox with empty envelopes, hoping they may be filled with silver and returned, then they'll be sadly disappointed. And I'm not the first to dig deep into my pockets to give money to my television when a free concert or sports event is broadcast, interspersed with heart-wrenching stories and banners suggesting how much I should donate. It's not that I dislike charity, I just believe that as a society we handle the situation wrongly. The more that individuals give, the less the need for society to contribute. I don't object to my taxes being used to help those less in need, but I do think it should be a government or council body deciding on allocation to meet genuine needs, rather than rely on the success or otherwise of specific money-raising campaigns. After all, why should a charity with a cute mascot, or maybe one with a big budget, get the healthiest return? There should be distribution based on need. Inevitably, one of my set of losers from my stringent policies is street beggars. And there must be quite a few like me, as begging has had to develop to become high-tech to compete for our attention. Well, I mean high-tech in the comparative world of scruffy tramps. Now, instead of asking for money in a passive-aggressive, menacing fashion, homeless people in a couple of major conurbations can now sell a service, a magazine called The Big Issue. As I mentioned, it even has its own website and online store. I told you it was high-tech. I've often passed these one-product newsstands and seen the vendors struggle to sell their magazine, despite featuring some high-profile cover guests and modern looks. The problem is the image and the thought that it is cover to cover with dreary stories of despair, which it really isn't. But being me, I had an answer. Once, when a scruffy lad asked if I wanted to swap one of my hard-earned pounds, yes, it was just a single pound in 2005, for one of his magazines, I initially politely declined and started to pass by, when an idea suddenly dawned on me. So I stopped, returned to him, and suggested he could either take the price of one magazine in exchange for said article, or alternately I could give him an idea for free to help sell hundreds more. Being a thoughtful, considerate man, he mused over the offer for a second or two, then demanded his immediate pound. Then, after gratefully receiving his quid for one of his tomes, announced in a slur, "You're my best friend, you." Alas, he had missed the opportunity of his lifetime. However, in a charitable manner, I'm now going to give out the advice I had for him to anyone watching this video. You see, it occurs to me that the street magazine sellers are missing out on one of the most populous parts of big city society, the tourists. And my idea will make the magazine appealing to all of them. Include a map of the city. That's it. Now, when you've recovered from the shock of such a simple idea and wondered why you hadn't thought of it, you might start to consider the pitfalls. Copyright is the major downside. Some companies make quite a profit out of selling, quote, disposable maps of cities to tourists, so they're hardly like to allow their particular map to be used. And as far as I'm aware, our national map supplier is not known for its charitable work. But this is where the idea still holds ground. Why not organise the sellers to freshly draw out the city from scratch? I know that would be a huge labour undertaking, consuming process, but hey, isn't that what street vendors do? Walk the streets all day? The only other pitfall I can predict is the image issue. Do our town mayors want all their tourists approached by a scruffy urchin offering a rain-sodden map on a magazine with the promise that "you're my best friend, mate, you"? But to deny the scheme for this reason alone would be uncharitable, wouldn't it? Escalator etiquette. It's always a nice thing to be able to set a trend, but you'll have a little difficulty getting one going all on your own, particularly those affecting thousands of commuters in busy metropoli. Is it metropoli? What's the actual plural of metropolis? It's a Greek word, so it should be metropolis. However, the word comes to English via Latin, so perhaps should be metropolis. Google cites a common misspelling as metropolises. This distinction is why I'm not correcting my own pronunciations as metropoli. Me, the Greeks, the ancient Romans, or Google? Let's see who wins here. Anyway, back to escalators, a place where it's now normal for those that are too fat, unfit, or even have too much time on their hands to stand still and let the moving stairs do the work. This is appallingly lazy and frankly a hindrance to all those who are too stressed to stand still for 30 seconds. This lackluster attitude causes mayhem in many places, and as such is becoming commonplace in big cities for those that stand to occupy just one side of the travelator, allowing others to rush up the other side. This system works quite well, so I can't express improvement here. However, what I do find is that the escalators are just not quite wide enough for this difference in speed. Maybe we've all become wider. I know quite a few that would fit in that category, and some so wide that they'd have to fit in the next category up. And the problem is exasperated in winter when everyone dresses like they're in Siberia. Big people in big coats mean a big problem. But I have a little solution. I thought of the idea whilst trying to hair up one of the escalators in London. I had travelled halfway up and realised I was adopting a contorted angular state with my torso. Not easy in public, I assure you. I had this strange 45-degree gait to avoid crashing into every stationary pedestrian. After all, crashing past with impunity is sometimes not only painful, but also so terribly rude. So I devised a simple solution that doesn't involve shutting down the underground system for years on end. Sorry, rail unions. My idea: why don't the stationary people just stand at a jaunty angle? Simple, eh? This would aid all parties with very little effort. The hares could charge up and get to their heart attack with ease, and the tortoises would not have their left shoulders dislocated. This could be encouraged with signs such as "stand on the left at an angle." By the way, I chose left, not because currently in London it is commonplace to stand on the right, as reinforced by little notices, and I'm trying to be deliberately obtuse, but because of reasons I shall very shortly reveal. As an inventor of ideas, I'm of course duty bound to look at the pitfalls as well as the benefits, but I'm a bit of a loss to think of them. There are even added benefits for the business that provided these escalators. All those stood at an angle would be turned towards all the revenue generated advertising commonly posted on the walls, to the left. Plus those that stand still on rising escalators will not have to have their face buried directly in the bottom of the person in front. I'm sold I'll be doing it from now, will you? After all, as I said at the beginning, I can't do all this by myself. Just one small issue would remain. The little signs currently encouraging everyone to stand on the right would need to be updated, so the rail unions would insist that the entire network is shut down for years on end whilst this critical infrastructure is amended. Note that these are not the only ideas I've had. In fact, just a selection of the first few I published up to February 2005. Before that, and even since then, I've never been able to stop myself thinking them up. These are just the first, and you'll have to madly subscribe, like, share and comment below to encourage me to spill the beans on more. And finally, I note that although I have not registered any of these ideas, the usual caveats of copyright apply, so please don't just steal these gems and pass them off as your own without due credit. By all means, develop and use them as you see fit, at your own risk of course. But if there's any fiscal remuneration for you involved, it'd be a good idea on your part to be fair and cut me in for inspiring you. Thanks for watching to the end, and remember to look out for more great Vince Unlimited content in the future. I've been Vince, not just today, but all of my life. This is the Vince Unlimited channel. It was filmed on my iPhone 10, edited by me on my iPad Air 4 using iMovie and other miscellaneous apps, and a guest appearance by Originality. Thank you. And is therefore a film by Vince, copyright 2022.